And it's something where I'm hoping, as an industry, we embrace more fully. And we get to that point where we are agnostic in terms of methodology and sit there and say, this is the business question that we need to understand. What's the right methodology? What's the right technique to be able to garner those insights that map onto the business values and not focus on, is this fully a representative sample? Is this, sort of the specific population we're looking at? So technology is the catalyst to our industry, and we just need to really sort of sit back and take it in and figure out what's the best roadmap.
Kristin?
Well, I just want to start off by saying that this is the first tech conference I've been to in the last 10 years where the opening session was 3 women on a panel. It's nice to see so many women out there. But that's definitely changing. I mean, I think women are, playing a bigger role in the technology of our research firms and moving the business forward from a tech perspective. So it's refreshing. Thank you, Lenny, for setting this panel. I appreciate it. But I would say, there's so much new technology coming into the industry these days. I mean, I was at a conference in March, and there were 4 new technology companies that I never ever heard of before. And so I think, having been sort of one of the early muckrakers in the online industry, and I think one of the cautions in the industry is to really let research guide the technology and not the other way around. And I see, a lot of firms coming into the space that don't necessarily have a research premise behind the technology or aren't being thoughtful about how technology could impact that research process. And so I think it's just being diligent and thoughtful as an industry and making sure that there's a purpose behind what looks cool or what is going to work for respondents. I was just on Facebook the other day, I was getting a lot of crap from people about the fact that I just turned my Droid in for a BlackBerry. I've had BlackBerry for a long time, tried to switch to Droid for 3 months and had lots of problems, and I was getting a lot of shit for it, frankly. And at the end of the day, it's what works for you, what is going to work the best, and what makes the most sense for you and your business. And I can say the same thing about my BlackBerry. We'll defend my BlackBerry. It works best for me right now. It's the best decision for me, and I get the best results from it. And at one point, I'll move forward. Not this week.
Not this week.
The Great Report does segment findings by those who are young and those who are not so young. And I'm not in the not so young camp. And I'm also very experienced. It also breaks it down between those who are under 6 years in the industry or 6 years or more. So I fall in the more experienced side too. But my practice and beliefs relative to technology in our industry is much more aligned with those who are inexperienced and younger. So I'm definitely an anomaly, I believe, from a data point in that particular survey. I've been embracing technology since I've been on my own 11 years ago, and it's really exciting to see our industry accepting so many different methods having to do with technology. I think this is one of them that's really going to take off quickly. 2 of the 3 of us up here brought our phones with us to the panel. It's a sign of the times right there. I think the one finding, though, in the report that is most concerning to me is for the last, I'd say, 7 years, I've been pushing back on clients who say faster, faster, faster. And I have always tried to see it for quality. And I think finally I'm succumbing to the pressure, faster, faster, faster. And I saw this in the report, that there's this trend on the client buying side now that speed is more important than quality. And I too finally have had to deliver to that. And I think that's a concerning trend. We really do, as an industry, need to put our foot down as best as we can and make sure we are delivering quality at the end of the day.
Intuitively, it's not surprising that younger populations would embrace some of these methodologies. But what was really interesting was look at neuromarketing. Down on the bottom 3, but yeah, from a buzz standpoint, on the marketing side, at the CMO level with the big brands, they're going nuts over neuromarketing. They think it's the best thing since sliced bread. But yet within, the broader research community, there wasn't much sense of embracing that. Predictive markets, a methodology has been around forever, and we use that, and we validate it within their own study that it's accurate, So why do you think that is? Why do you think that, is it a function of buzz or just ease of understanding that mobile MROCs, social media, text analytics, that those were all at the highest level, but yet some of the other techniques that have proven to be, or at least the evidence is that they're very valid and can be very effective, nobody really cared about. Any thoughts on why that may have been?
I mean, I think that some of the new methods are easier to embrace and some are a little tougher to understand or tougher to integrate into your firm. I mean, most of the people that are involved in neuromarketing, at least that I'm familiar with, their firm only does neuromarketing. They don't really do anything else. So it's a real specialty for them. Versus, my firm, there's lots of different research tools that we use, everything from online to mobile to, custom reporting, all different types of things. And so our business is a little more diversified, and to embrace something like neuromarketing requires us to really develop a whole staff and practice around that. So I think it's just ease of integrating in some ways.
Kristin, from a P&G experience standpoint, what's your thought there, going back to your P&G days?
Well, when I was at P&G, neuromarketing was not on the scene a while ago. So I can't really comment on how their use of neuromarketing and how they feel about it these days. But to Kristin's point, I think that the firms that are doing neuromarketing tend to be on the larger side. I think it's much more difficult for smaller practices to be offering the same thing.
Okay. Roxy.
So from sort of an acceptance side, I think, given that the majority of the industry is on sort of the older side in terms of experience, in terms of just even our training. A lot of our training was sort of rudimented in, it's all about, the sample quality, the process, and really sort of tearing it up, making sure that it's valid and has reliability. And I feel that with some of these newer methods, exactly, especially with neuromarketing or neuroscience, it's we still haven't gotten through that sort of vetting process. And so we're not seeing as much sort of acceptance being, obviously ARF did the neurostandards piece or their sort of analysis of about, I think, 9 different vendors, 2 of which the big contenders, the Neurofocus and Evidence, didn't participate. And still that report, I thought, was, in my personal view, was not to the level that I would have appreciated for the market research industry to sort of get a handle of what is the right method to apply to the right question. What are the types of questions that you should ask as a buyer of this methodology to ensure that they are going to deliver something that speaks to our language, that isn't from a sort of neuroscience speak, but actually translates that into the actual business speak that we have to evolve to, because we need to become strategic advisors, and we need to have data that links to that. So I think with some of this acceptance, it's sexy, it's interesting, but we're so trained in that sort of rudimented process of really analyzing it thoroughly that that's where I think we're sort of balking at it. And I think with some of these methods, we need to sort of embrace it a little bit more aggressively.